and good evening all. Today we're taking a look at one of the most exciting vehicles to show up at the HSR races in the past several years, as well as one of the finest sounding, the Mazda 767. Incidentally, this video will be published in two versions, this shorter one keeping close to 5 minutes, and another with info on Vonkel engines, some remarks about A Christmas Carol, Howard Hughes, and AI, and more about the car's design and competition history. Designed by Mr. Nigel Stroud and Mazda Speed, the 767 was the 1988 update of Mazda's prototype racing efforts in GTP that kicked off with the 717 in 1983. It's worth noting at the time, while they competed in the GTP class, they largely ran in the World Sports Car Championship for some reason. All the 7X7 series cars shared Vonkel rotary power plants, with the 76's main upgrade over the preceding 757 coming in the form of a larger four-rotor engine known as the 13J. The previous engine, the three-rotor 13G, I have no idea where 13H and 13I went, but there we are, was significantly smaller and less powerful, making only around 450 horsepower compared to the 13J's 542. A high rev limit, 9,000 RPM, helped produce its spectacular sound, which arguably became the defining trait of Mazda's prototypes. Power went to the rear wheels through a 5-speed manual gearbox co-developed between Mazda and Porsche, using a Porsche base unit modified to work with the rotary engine. Interestingly, I learned in the paddock last week that the transmission, at least the unit that was in vehicle at the race, was not a racing typical sequential manual, but rather a road-derived gearbox with synchros and an H-pattern shifter, which greatly improved drivability, if at a slight disadvantage to shifting speeds. The car's still bloody quick, though. Though the engine was larger than its predecessor, the 767 was slightly lower to the ground, albeit a bit longer than the 75, which improved cornering downforces and, personal opinion, made the 76 the best-looking of Mazda's prototypes from that era. In contrast to the unusual nature of the power plant, however, the chassis was de rigueur for the time. It had an aluminum monocoque with carbon fiber and Kevlar body panels, similarly conventional double wishbone suspension with coilovers rather than pushrods, and disc brakes on all four wheels, bringing the total ballasted weight to a mere 800 kilos or 1,764 pounds, lighter than most of the other Group C cars in the paddock. Debuting at the 500 kilometers of Suzuka in April of '88, one of the two 767s managed 7th overall, while the other retired with mechanical issues. A subsequent outing at Silverstone brought a class victory for the one entry, along with 9th overall, although the class victory rings a bit hollow upon examination of the results, which reveals only one entry in the GTP class. It's rather easy to win without competition. Anyway, the '88 Le Mans outing was a bit of a disappointment, with both cars suffering reliability issues in the French Classic, specifically cracked manifolds and water pump failures. Although they were repaired and did manage to finish the race, it was behind the 757 that Mazda had entered as insurance against such an eventuality, and the cars came 17th and 19th overall in the standings, which saw the 757 take GTP class honors, again with only Mazda entries contesting. The rest of the season was similar with reliability issues, and since building an entirely new prototype each year was expensive and may not actually improve anything, Mazda Speed's remit for the off-season was for further weight reduction, aerodynamic improvement, and power improvement, which brought an increase to 621 brake horsepower and the loss of several dozen kilograms, and brought the 767B into existence for the 1989 season, the most notable aesthetic change coming in the form of new side-mounted exhausts. Starting the season off on this side of the pond, the 6.7 actually kicked off the year with a pretty solid start, finishing 5th overall and in class at the Daytona 24-hour, where there were a lot of GTPs. Class wins at Suzuka and Brands Hatch preceded that year's Le Mans, this again as Mazda were the sole class entrants. Le Mans saw 3 cars entered again, with 2 767Bs and a third in 767 base form, the only 3 chassis that were ever actually completed. Results did improve over the year prior, with the cars coming 7th, 9th, and 12th in chassis number order, but outright victory remained beyond their grasp. They did make it 1, 2, 3 in class. The rest of the season was underwhelming, and the 787 made its appearance in 1990, with chassis number 003 now running in 767B guise as the insurance car for the new prototypes. Both of the 787s failed to finish at Le Mans that year, and the 67 suffered a variety of mechanicals as well, but did manage to complete the race and come 20th overall. The 767 was subsequently retired by Mazda at the end of the season, with chassis 003 racing as a privateer car for 2 years in Japan, before being sold to a South African collector who squirreled it away in a warehouse somewhere, shame on him, until it was sold in 2013, restored, hooray, and returned to historic racing. A crash at Goodwood in 2015 necessitated repairs, and it subsequently sold again in 2017 at Amelia Island for $1.75 million, while the first 2 chassis remained under Mazda ownership, apart from a brief privateer effort in 1990 and 91, after which the car was returned to them. That brings us to the end of another video. Hopefully I kept it appropriately short this time. The extended version is coming up shortly. And for this week's call to action not featuring the 3 sacred words of YouTube,
like, comment, subscribe.
Interestingly enough, today, December 8th, is Bodhi Day, the date on which Siddhartha Gautama allegedly sat underneath the Bodhi tree and achieved enlightenment. While I am not myself Buddhist, I do appreciate the general concepts of cultivating mindfulness and right action towards one's fellow beings. I think that works. So let's all give that a moment's thought when we have the time, or more appropriately, we should make the time. As they say, Buddhu Saranai, or Saranai, or as I usually say, thank you for your time this evening, or wherever and whenever you are watching, and I wish you all a good night and a good tomorrow.